Hey everyone. So the USPSA version, the Ace trigger, comes out tomorrow, and many of you are probably wondering, should I buy this? I think the short answer, honestly, is yes. If you are shooting a Glock in competition and you want the absolute best competition trigger out there, then I think this is the one to get. Up until this trigger came out, I was using the Johnny Glock Competition setup. Really enjoyed shooting that trigger. Had very few issues with it. Shoots well, and I think, honestly, it's a trigger you should consider as well. If you value reliability and durability, this might actually be an even better option. That being said, the Ace does offer some unique advantages. It really just comes down to this. There is so little travel before and after the wall, and the wall is just so much crisper and cleaner than anything else out there that you simply have a smaller window in which to make mistakes. The longer the trigger pull, that is essentially a bigger window for you to put input into the gun and disturb the sights. Likewise, the heavier a trigger pull is, that increases the probability that you're going to put input into the gun. So when you're squeezing the trigger, your hand might squeeze. And the heavier that trigger is, the more your hand is going to squeeze. This is a habit you have to deprogram out of your head, and this can take a very long time. And even when you get used to shooting and pulling a trigger this way, it's still possible for you to put input into the gun and move the sights if the trigger is heavy enough. I think, as you'll see, as I try and complete these drills, I simply just had fewer misses with the Ace trigger system. Again, that trigger is just so light and so crisp compared to anything else out there. It really just made these types of drills seem easier. I could complete them with the Johnny Glock setup, but I had to focus more on my trigger. And pistol shooting is a sport that is all about looking somewhere and sending that bullet where you're looking. Everything else is a distraction or an obstacle that gets in your way of doing that. And a longer, heavier trigger pull is just that. It's both an obstacle and a distraction from you doing that. Now, the Ace trigger, I will admit, I have had some issues with it that does make me concerned about, will this trigger last? But I think honestly the risk is worth it at this point. I've got about 6,000 rounds total through Ace triggers, and while I've had some concerns and some unusual wear patterns and some, the triggers have not broken and remain functional. The more I live fire with this trigger, the more I dry fire with this trigger, the more I have enjoyed it, the more I'm getting used to it, and the more I'm convinced that this trigger simply performs better. So, in short, should you buy this? At this point in time, I think yes. If you're looking for a trigger to compete with, I've tried a lot of different triggers, and honestly, I think this is just the best one out there. That doesn't mean that other triggers out there are not good. In fact, since most other triggers out there are essentially tuned, polished OEM parts, they're arguably more reliable and are likely to have fewer problems as far as wear, tear, fitment, etc. So that's something that you'll have to weigh and decide for yourself. But if you're strictly concerned with competition performance, then nothing I've tried comes close to this. So anyway, that's my thoughts at the moment. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, please let me know.